Hello and welcome to Awesome Premier League final day, match day 38. 38 weeks later, we are with Tom Rennie to analyze these games, of course, with the eye on the Champions League. And Tom was really spot on in the Europa League final. We have Tottenham Hotspurs, crown champions again, and in an unwatchable final, as you predicted, Tom. Actually, everything was like you said.
Yeah, my top, I think, 4 bets all came off. Number 1, you can't bet on it, but it was going to be absolutely unwatchable. Like you said, it really was a terrible game. But 1-0, exactly 1 goal for Tottenham. 1-0, 2-0 or 3-0. Tottenham win without conceding. It all came together. Sorry to Ronan, but I was right. You were wrong.
Exactly. Well, let's try to analyze this last match day in the Premier League. Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, Aston Villa, and Nottingham Forest fighting for 3 spots to go to the Champions League. Nothing else on stake. But now let's talk about the Premier League, guys. Remember to leave your comments, press the like, and now let's go on with the show. First game is Bournemouth, Leicester. All the games, by the way, played on Sunday, 4 p.m. Also, you were correct on tipping Vardy to score in his farewell from Leicester City ground. Leicester City beat Ipswich. Vardy scored. It was very emotional, his farewell. Great player, of course. Great achievement that Premier League won. And now they are facing Bournemouth, Tom.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jamie Vardy back in the Premier League again next season, but we'll maybe save that for the next series of this show. Let's start with Bournemouth, because I think in the end the season's going to prove to be a bit of a disappointment. Like, all in all, like, we've enjoyed watching them. There's been some great moments, but they're going to finish maybe top of the bottom half or bottom of the top half. And 10th would be, historically, a really great achievement for Bournemouth, so I don't want to take that away. But I do think there was a window there where 7th was doable. Maybe top 5 was doable at some point during the season, but they have fallen away. And there's understandable reasons for that. They've had a whole bunch of injuries, which they still have going into this game. They've lost Alex Scott now to a broken jaw. He's had so many problems this season. They began the campaign without Tyler Adams. Ryan Christie has been missing for ages. Enes Ünal, who was the backup for Evan Nielsen's been missing for ages. Utara's missing. So, like, they've had a lot of injuries. But they've also had a lot of talent available for a lot of the season. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 and Howson and 𝗀𝐿𝐿𝐴. And now we're at the point where if you're Bournemouth and you don't make Europe and you've got some real talented players, what happens? Pick. Their players get taken. Already Howson's going to Real Madrid. We expect Milos Kerkez to go to maybe Liverpool. And 1 or 2 others may well go as well. Semenyo and Kluivert. And it's a massive blow for what Antonio Iraola was doing. It's a massive blow for the potential Bournemouth had this season, because look, Crystal Palace are in Europe and Nottingham Forest are in Europe and Tottenham are going to be back in Europe. Europe was open this year for a qualification for lots of teams, with Man United and Tottenham and West Ham being as awful as they have been compared to previous seasons, and they failed to do so. There's a stinging disappointment there, I think, with Bournemouth. Plus, I think it's 1 victory in their last 5. That was the win against Arsenal when they were in no way focused on the Premier League at all. So overall, I think the season might be disappointing for Bournemouth. And I wonder about the future of the manager, Iraola, as well. How attractive he'd be at the very top level, I don't know. But that mid-level, West Ham, Tottenham sort of clubs in England, equivalent in Europe, maybe, slightly too good. But Milan's coming up. There's a few jobs that might look at someone like Iraola. So we'll see what happens. He's certainly very good at what he does with limited resources. For Leicester, Jamie Vardy isn't going to play this game for the reasons we spoke about last week. They wanted him to score a goal and have 500 appearances and 200 goals. It's an incredible dedication to stats. God bless them for it. But that takes away their only goal threat in this game. They have got better in the last couple of weeks. 7 points in 3 games is really decent. Really impressed by the way they performed against Nottingham Forest. I'd expect them to have beaten Ipswich and Southampton at home. They kind of got unlucky. Those 2 games came so late in the calendar, because they could have got more points on the board to build on if those gimme wins were earlier in the season. But look, they're still one of the worst teams in the country. They've still conceded 78 goals. They still have an atrocious away record across the campaign. So you can only really go for Bournemouth here, despite both teams' pretty average form. Take the Bournemouth win at 1.39. There's a lovely group bet here to be had of comfortable Bournemouth wins, 1-0, 2-0 or 3-0. Bundle them together at 3.25. That's a nice double your money. Also, don't discount the draw here, mainly because I'm not sure how much both teams are going to care. And a late Leicester sucker punch wouldn't surprise me. So 1-1 or 1-0, 2-0 to Bournemouth. But tip for Bournemouth because Leicester haven't got Vardy.
Yeah, correct score 1-0 for 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. Next game is Fulham Man City. This one is very important for the Champions League battle, although Man City had almost the ticket after beating 3-1 Bournemouth after losing the FA Cup final. What a disaster this season for Guardiola, even after winter. I mean, the first 3-4 months of the season were really bad, Tom, but then they spent a lot of money in winter just to win absolutely nothing. At least they have to go to 𝐻𝐵𝗀𝐻𝐿 and do the job and qualify for the Champions League.
They do. I think they will, but I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Man City. I think this is a real horrible last day of the season fixture. Like in other years, if they were going to go on to be champions, they've won this game, you know, down the home stretch and gone on to be champions. It's not the same Man City, and it's not the same Fulham as well. Fulham in that same bracket, like it could have been a really great season for them, but every time an opportunity has presented itself to win a key game and go on to qualify for Europe, make that top 7, they fluffed it. Crystal Palace in the league, also in the cup. Chelsea at home recently. Villa away was a tough game, but they were in that game. And Everton at home a couple of weeks ago was a key example of it. But on the flip side, whenever you think, right, that's it for Fulham, no good for them, well, you know what happens? The exact opposite thing happens. They put in an outstanding performance and they go on to win a game by 3-2 like they did against Brentford last week. So they're a tough team to predict, Fulham. I think this is probably the last game that Marcus Silva will be in charge. I think that he has sort of taken Fulham as far as he possibly can. He's obviously an ambitious manager. He wants to be at the very top end of the game. I think we saw that when he left Watford for Everton all those years ago. He's never quite made it to the top level where he thinks he belongs, and maybe he does. But I feel like he is going to move on this summer. I think Saudi would be a mistake. I think he thought Tottenham might come up, and that still might happen depending on what happens with 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝐻. But look, he is a manager who isn't great at dealing with young players. He wants to deal with old pros and get the best out of them. The trouble with having old pros at Fulham is that they're inconsistent. It's why they're at Fulham. So, good team, great seasons for the likes of Raul Jimenez and Alex Iwobi and one or two others. But I think it's a team that's going to start to get broken up and a manager who will probably leave. In terms of Manchester City, you're right to pick out how bad that run was, and that's what's cost them. But actually, beyond that run, they're on another long unbeaten run. Taking away the FA Cup in the league, victory against Bournemouth, draw at Southampton was a shock, but beat Wolves, beat Forest, which was very impressive. Like they're up, there was a cup game, of course, but like they've got lots of really good wins in this run. They've defensively shored up, which was a big problem for a long time, but they've stopped conceding goals, which is a positive for Pep Guardiola's team. I wonder what happens with the goalkeeper next season. It can't be Ortega. I wonder if it's going to be Ederson. That could be another in the long amount of changes they're going to be making this summer. It's going to be the final farewell game for Kevin De Bruyne. He will play in his farewell game, unlike Jamie Vardy, who didn't want it to be away from home. Haaland's dried up a bit. That's a concern. But look, more broadly with City, I think there's a lot of players that need to get moved on. 𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐶 suspended. He's one of them. Jack Grealish, obviously one of them. Maybe someone like Jeremy Doku doesn't do very much, might be one of them. Nico Gonzalez came in January, did nothing really. Looks like he's already getting replaced by someone else in that creative midfield role. Phil Foden's not contributed much this season. There's a whole bunch of players. You're a bit like, do they want to do another cycle of Pep Guardiola? He wants to do another 2-year cycle. I'm not sure many of the players did. And that's led to this sort of schism with players who want to stay, players who don't. And of course, they're going to spend big again this summer. So we'll see how that goes. This game, I think, is going to be right in the balance. It's going to be real in the balance. I think you look at the recent scorelines that both teams have had. They've both been in the game. 2-3 victory against Brentford and a 1-3 loss for Fulham. 3-1 win over Bournemouth, but a 1-0 loss against Crystal Palace. I think it's going to be quite tight. I would just pick for Man City at 1.63 as my opening bet. And then I'd look at some goals in this game. Both have been scoring recently. Both scored 3 in their last game. So look for goals here. City and over 2.5 brings you in at 2.1. City and both teams to score brings you in at 2.63. Both teams scored in their previous game, and they've scored a lot of goals in the last 5. That comes in quite nice. Nice little group bet here of 2-1, 3-1, and 4-1 brings you in at 4. Really, really nice for very likely scorelines. But don't dismiss the draw here as well. I'm going to pick for City with both teams scoring, but I can easily see this finishing 1-1, 2-2, maybe even 3-3. Should be a fun one.
All right, well, 𝐿 both teams to score an over 2.5 goals, following also your thoughts. Also, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 going for the same market. Navina is going for a big surprise. Fulham to win. Well, nothing to play for in the next game. Ipswich, West Ham, last game for Ipswich in the Premier League. They'll finish penultimate in the standings, and also a season to forget for West Ham with 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗍, with Potter. Tom, the best thing to do is go on holidays, reset, and rebuild.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, on Ipswich Town, the reason they've gone down this season is because they couldn't win many home games. And I think Kieran McKenna is a very good coach, and I think they'll probably win the championship next year. They'll sell 𝐿iam Delap. That's probably about it. Maybe 1 or 2 other squad players, Ben Johnson types. But in general, the squad's going to stay broadly the same. They're going to be very attractive to all those players in the championship who want to be in the Premier League. They're a very attractive possibility for a lot of players. So a bright future next year in the second tier. But I don't think Kieran McKenna knew how to win home games in the Premier League. You know how you do that? You Sam Allardyce it. You do what 𝗵𝗲𝗀 did in the Europa League final on Wednesday night. You nick a goal, you hold on for dear life, you don't try and entertain anybody, and you try and get some points. Because their away form was pretty good. They're not a bad away team in the Premier League as it goes. Not amazing, but competitive. If they could have won 5 home games this year instead of 1, they could be going into the final day with something to play for. But apart from that win against Chelsea, they've not won a game at home all season. It's nowhere near good enough. The players haven't been good enough. I think a lot of the players have kind of given up on the season. We saw the way 𝐸𝐸 played a couple of weeks ago. Leif Davis getting sent off against Arsenal, I think it was. A lot of the players have kind of heads gone at the moment. They need to wrap this season up, and wrap it up they will this weekend, and see how they are next year. In terms of West Ham, we've done a lot of briefs on West Ham, but like the game last week went exactly as we predicted, by the way, that Forest would win it. We picked 2-1. That was the scoreline in the end. But what you saw with West Ham in the last 20 minutes is the possibility and the talent of some of these players. I just don't think many of them have cared. Like, there's not been an intensity of performance in West Ham for a long time. And suddenly, when things got a bit angry last week against Nottingham Forest, look at that great goal from 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗍. 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗍's an exceptional player. Like, West Ham have got him signed up for a long-term contract. If he was a couple of years younger and his contract was a couple of years shorter, he'd be amazing for every team in the Champions League. I'm telling you, he's incredible. Like, this guy is just as good as someone like Anthony Gordon, or just as good as some of the players Villa have got in there. He's as good as Pedro Neto, who's going to be playing for Chelsea. Exceptional player. He's got more goals and assists in his Premier League time than Bukayo Saka from when they both made their debut in the competition. He's an exceptional footballer. And they couldn't make something of that, West Ham? You know, it doesn't say much about 𝗀𝗻𝗵𝗍𝗍. He was always the wrong hire. I'm glad they got rid of him. I'm not sure Graham Potter's the right replacement. But look, he's going to get a rebuild. He's going to get the summer. A lot of players need to leave West Ham. Edson Alvarez, Lucas Paqueta, Mohamed Kudus. But also lower down that spectrum, people like Danny Ings are going. Aaron Cresswell's going. Lucas Fabianski is going. It's going to be a very different West Ham next year from what you see this year. And what they've lacked is athleticism. If they don't have athletes in midfield, someone like Caicedo, someone like Rice, someone like Elliot Anderson, you ain't going to succeed in this league. And they've got nobody who could do that. So big summer for West Ham. I do think this game will just favour them. They've actually not been bad away from home this season. It's the home form that's let them down. 5 wins on the road and 5 draws is not too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. We saw against Arsenal. We saw against Newcastle. They're more than capable of winning games like this. And I think if Graham Potter is smart, and there's not much evidence to suggest that he is, we will have Wan-Bissaka and Bowen on the right-hand side, and West Ham just get them the ball. Everyone else does their basic job, and those 2 exceptional players go and win West Ham the game. If they do that, I think they will. So I'll take West Ham to win this at 2.25, because you can't ever bet on a team that have won 1 game in 18 at home. So what can we do here? Jarrod Bowen's exceptional. Anytime goal scorer at 2.5. Add that to a West Ham win. That doubles your money. And West Ham both teams to score is 3.5 as well, because, of course, West Ham have one of the worst defensive records in the country. So you've got to expect them to concede 1, but hopefully for them score 2.
Okay, we have Navina, West Ham to score at least 1 goal, 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐼 draw. Draw actually is kind of good also. And Navina, 1-0 or 2-1 for West Ham. Let's go from this funeral to the party at Anfield. It's going to be, well, the last game of the season, Liverpool Crystal Palace, and the first from the new one with the Community Shield, because we have the two English champions together. Great season for Crystal Palace, first major trophy in their history. We saw really emotional images, photos at Wembley last weekend. It's so nice to see just a humble middle-class club winning a trophy, Tom, and also the season has been great also for Liverpool. We keep forgetting it, because, of course, they won the Premier League so long time ago, but it's only their second Premier League in their history. So it's also a great achievement for the Reds, and the first one that they could celebrate with their supporters, actually.
Yeah, I saw Rebecca Lowe from NBC. She was on Sirius XM FC a few days ago, and she's going to be doing the NBC at Anfield this weekend. And she said, this is going to be the happiest game in the world this weekend. Like, what an incredible atmosphere. What an incredible environment. Like, no one at Crystal Palace is going to, not they would anyway, but for any sort of bitterness towards Liverpool, like maybe some other opponents would on this game. But of course, they've brought their own joy to it. They're all going to be there celebrating the FA Cup, as we saw a couple of days ago in the game at Selhurst. And you've got, of course, the Premier League title party as well. These are the two most impressive stories in terms of the domestic league this season. And look, the only doubt I have about Liverpool, and it's going to be an interesting summer for Liverpool, and I know they're already signing players, is that the drop-off after winning the title has been quite significant. And really, the drop-off since February has been quite significant. They were just so far ahead by the time the Carabao Cup final came round that even a little stumble in form didn't really cost them. But I do think that they were gettable this year by a good challenger. The trouble is there hasn't been a good challenger. And again, I'm not trying to take it away from Liverpool. People think you are when you say things like that. They've been the best team in the country. You beat what's put in front of you and they deserve to be champions. But Mo Salah stopped scoring. They started conceding crap goals. They're spending more time at Lineker's Bar in Ibiza than they are getting ready for games. I don't know, like it's just been a bit off. And you see spurts of it. Saw spurts of it against Brighton, bits of it against Liverpool, moments of it against Chelsea, but it's not there right now. And I think the summer's going to be interesting in terms of rejuvenating the squad, one or two smart investments, replacing Alexander-Arnold, bringing in maybe someone else to replace Darwin Núñez up front, because you cannot rely on Mo Salah to do 28 goals again next season. Like, he's dropped off at the start of this. I think he'll do a 20-goaler. Sure, he's still a great player, but someone has got to replace the goals that Darwin Núñez didn't deliver, and that's going to be quite interesting. So going into this game, of course, they're favourites to win it, but I think there is a real possibility here for Crystal Palace. Like, everyone's fit, and everyone is in form, and everyone's happy. And look at the form of the defence: 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐼, Gay, and Richards, or 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐼 if he plays, probably Richards. Look at the brilliance of Wharton in midfield. I know he's out with concussion at the moment, but you know, moving forward, there's a great place for him in England's midfield this summer if he's fit. But without him, they've still got Will Hughes, who's fantastic, and up front, Mateta, top scorer of the season with 14, Eza and Sarr. So it's all there. And they're also on a run of unbeaten in 5, including winning the FA Cup. The draw was against Nottingham Forest. And look, it's obvious to say Liverpool win, so take that as your top tip at 1.45. But Palace at 6.75 is crazy. Like, Liverpool have lost 2 of their last 3. They're conceding lots of goals. Most will be hungover from being at Lineker's or in Dubai in the last week. They said after the Chelsea game that there was something missing. Desire to win is missing. And there's a bounce. Liverpool have bounced out of winning the title and sort of bounced down. Palace have bounced up. And I just think the odds are too delicious here. So Liverpool is the top tip, sure, but 6.75, take Crystal Palace to win. You can also get Palace at a +1, which I thought was really interesting at double your money. I like that. I'd double your money for Palace to win with a goal advantage. And there's just something about that I think is really grabbing to me. And also as well, I've done it a lot this season. It keeps coming off. Palace to be winning at half-time. Or Palace to be winning in the first 10 minutes is slightly more acute. But Palace to win at half-time is 4.33. Liverpool going to win it late. But it keeps on happening. Like Palace first goal. I just fancy him first goal. Look at Mateta, first goal as well.
Well, we have many people really happy to see Darwin Núñez gone from Anfield.
It's not good enough.
I heard rumors of him going perhaps to Man United. I think it would be a perfect fit, actually. Darwin Núñez and Man United is just such a perfect fit. Well, thank you, Jimmy from North Carolina, watching our videos, Tom, and pressing the like. Thank you, Jimmy Benitez from North Carolina. Well, great odds to back Crystal Palace somehow. In the meantime, Liverpool players probably are hungover from Ibiza. Next game, Tom, let's go back to the funerals. Old Trafford is not anymore the theater of dreams. What a season to forget. Man United, Aston Villa. This is a very interesting game. Of course, Aston Villa, right now they are 6th in the standings, so they must win to qualify for the Champions League spots. The schedule was good to them, I would say, to face Tottenham before this game against Man United, although with the defeat in that Europa League final to be forgotten, Tom, I guess there should be some pride out of the Man United players and win at least the final game in front of their crowd.
If people want a snapshot in time, look at these odds. Look at the odds for Man United to win at home against anyone. I know Villa are a good team this year, but look at the odds. Like, you don't get this. This doesn't happen. And it might be something we've all got to get used to, because this Man United team, Edu, they're awful. They're so bad. And look, there are personnel problems. Like, 𝐿𝐿 shouldn't be playing, right? He's barely played all season. He's out of shape and he shouldn't be playing. Maguire was meant to have been gone, and now he's the starting centre-half in every single game again. 𝐵𝗛𝐿𝐿 not ready to be playing Premier League football. Whether he ever will be, I don't know. Casemiro's got too old. Bruno Fernandes is doing everything for everyone. Garnacho not starting on Wednesday was bizarre. Even more bizarre how late they brought him on. Rasmus Højlund could knock snow off a rope. Diallo, I think, has done quite well. But beyond that, there's not much to write home about right now about Manchester United. They have bought into the concept of the tactical genius of Ruben Amorim to such a degree, they're willing to let the ship sink in the hope that he is the right man to turn it around. I have seen nothing, frankly, in the half year of Amorim being in charge to suggest he should continue. The steadfast sticking to a system that doesn't work for the players he has is insane. An insane thing to do, especially when you consider the plan was to sell a lot of these players anyway. Why are you training players on a system they can't play and that they're not going to play next season when you're going to try and play it? It doesn't make any sense what he's done. He's stuck to it all the way through. And if it wasn't for Bruno Fernandes, I don't know where they'd be. Honestly, I don't know where they'd be. Some great performances in Europe. I don't discount some of the performance in both legs against Athletic Club, the extra time against Lyon. Some of that was great. But the league has been atrocious. The lack of effort against West Ham was a sackable offence. The lack of creativity against Chelsea was jaw-dropping. The performance in the Europa League final on Wednesday should be humiliating. Like, it was so bad. And beyond the 𝐿𝐿 header and Garnacho's half chance and the mistake from Vicario, they created nothing against the Tottenham team and one of the worst defences in the country. Like, they didn't have it. And he couldn't adapt in-game. He couldn't change the tactics in-game to improve it. The only time he's really done that is when he bunged Maguire up front against Lyon. And that wasn't a long thought-out plan. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do. And they've got a lot of players to sell. And everyone knows they're desperate to sell. So the transfer fees aren't going to be great. And why someone like Matheus Cunha apparently wants to go there now is absolutely beyond me. Like, he's literally jumping on the Titanic when it's already broken in half. Like, it doesn't make sense. But we'll see how that goes. I expect nothing but misery here for Man United. Maybe if they were at home against West Ham again or at Ipswich, they might win this. But Villa's a horrid opponent. In that mix for Champions League qualification, victory will get them there. They've got players hitting form like Ollie Watkins and John McGinn, who are always going to be up for a battle like this. I think Marco Asensio's got off the boil a little bit, but in his absence, other players have stepped up, like Jacob Ramsey, who's been great in recent weeks. Morgan Rogers has kind of fallen off a little bit, but Onana has stepped up and been fantastic in central midfield. Going to be weird for Man United to see a really good Onana playing on the field, but there you go. It's the other one, not yours, I'm afraid. So I can only say an Aston Villa win here. They have pace, they have power, they have aggression, they have skill, they have purpose. None of those things Man United have. Villa win at 1.75. I think Villa win, and they'll score a few goals as well. Take Villa win and over 2.5 goals in the game at 2.38. It might be a bit more than that, but I'm taking a conservative tip for you here. If you feel more adventurous, absolutely go for it. Villa win 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1 as a group bet is 4.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see Harry Maguire score from a corner or Bruno Fernandes get a penalty for a consolation goal for Man United. That opens up Villa win and both teams to score at double your money, which is also quite nice. And you're picking out a player. Look at Ollie Watkins, anytime goal scorer at 2.25. Double that with a Villa win, and that's your money doubled.
𝐿𝐿 is taking Aston Villa to win as well. Mom Spaghetti, Liverpool fan, wants to give Ruben Amorim a 10-year contract. Well, let's continue with the Champions League fight. Aston Villa 66 points, Newcastle 66 points, playing at home in St. James's Park against Everton. So another must win for Newcastle. At home, they've won the last 6 games. They lost to Arsenal, as you know, last weekend, but again, very strong in this last part of the season when they are playing at home. Tom, Everton, well, they beat Southampton in their last ever game at Goodison Park.
You know what's frustrating is that I got like maybe 8 or 9 tips right last week, but I did get Arsenal Newcastle wrong. But you know what? I didn't know 𝐿𝐿 wasn't going to be there. Like we didn't know that 𝐿𝐿 wasn't going to be there until match day. I was doing the game on the Sunday and suddenly everyone's like, oh, there's no 𝐿𝐿. If 𝐿Exander-Isak was there last week, they'd have beaten Arsenal 3-0. Like they had so many chances and they kept fluffing them and missing them and all of that. At the moment, we're not expecting 𝐿𝐿 to play. And that throws this one ever so slightly into doubt because Callum Wilson's a good player. Osula is not a bad striker, but 𝐿𝐿ander-Isak is world class. And so to not have him is a concern for Newcastle going into a game, which like everyone in that group at the top is must win. If they win it, they will be in the Champions League next season. It's the same story for everyone up there. Except for Villa and Forest. They need other results to go their way, but of course Forest will get above Villa and we'll get to all that. So look, I think that Newcastle have had a fantastic season. I think Champions League qualification in the 𝐬𝐵𝗿𝗀 would be one of the greatest seasons in living memory for Newcastle United. I think they're going to go big in the summer in 3 or 4 positions. I think they need maybe some more variation on the wings. I'm not sure how good 𝗿𝗵𝗿 is in terms of a title push. I think he's good enough for what they've done so far. I think maybe some more depth in replacing 𝐿𝐿ander-Isak might be required as well. That's why they've been linked with Liam Delap this week. I think when they lose Joe Linton in midfield, they lose some power, so they could do with some extra cover in there. And of course, defensively too, Sven Botman being out all season has been a keenly felt problem for Newcastle. He's their best defender, and so without him, well done to Burn and Cher and all of that, but they have needed, I think, Sven Botman to be fit, and without him, they just had a slight lack of quality in that position. So that's the summer, but at home, they've been fantastic this season. Good wins recently against Ipswich and Chelsea, and away from home, they struggle, but at home, they've been great. So I'd fancy them to be favourites here. And look, for Everton, nice little run to end the season, 7 points in the last 3. They were always going to beat Southampton last week, which we predicted. Always fancied them to get the victory there. But the problems remain. There are big problems for David Moyes. It's not going to be a big transfer budget in the summer. Beto's not a goal scorer. Calvert-Lewin's on his way out. They lose that kind of focus in central forward positions. I think 𝗀𝗏𝗏 coming back in and Dwight McNeil has given them creativity in the last 3, which was lacking in the 10 before that. But they do need some more options in there. But look, they're both fit going into this game. So they can be a threat here, Everton. And if you go back to the Forest game a few weeks ago, you know exactly what a David Moyes team is going to do here. They'll be low block. They'll look to counter press. He's a brilliant counter punch manager, David Moyes. And with pace of someone like Dwight McNeil and Abdoulaye Doucouré playing his probably last game for Everton. Well, it is his last game for Everton. He's leaving. There's a great chance they could counter punch here. So don't discount Everton in this game. But I think if Newcastle get the first goal, they could go on to have a bit of a field day with Newcastle in celebratory, joyous mood, and Everton thankfully wrapping up a season that could have been significantly worse. So take the Newcastle win at 1.36. Their home form this season has been far too good to ignore. It's 12 wins from 18. Newcastle win 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 as a group bet is double your money. 2-0 on its own is 6.5. If 𝐿𝐿 is there, take 𝐿𝐿 to score any time and Newcastle to win. Again, another double your money. But I think Newcastle win without conceding. But it's going to be under 2.5, I think. Not a big win, but I think a comfortable win.
Well, Newcastle need this too much, as Connacht is saying, so they must win to keep the Champions League spot. And the game of the games this weekend, no doubt, is Nottingham Forest Chelsea, direct clash for the Champions League spot. Nottingham Forest still with options, 1 point less than Chelsea. The bookies put Chelsea, Tom, as favourites here, but their away form has been concerning. It's only 1 win in the last 10 trips. It was against Fulham, so actually around the corner. And Nottingham Forest, they are keeping their hopes alive after beating West Ham. Tricky this one.
Yeah, game of the day, no doubt about it. And the winner will finish above the other, and they will hope in Champions League positions. It's a huge game for Forest, who didn't expect to be in this position and might not be in it again. The window is open, but it is closing. And so they must win this game and hope results go their way. And what a great achievement that would be for Nuno and his squad, not only because no one expected it and the relatively low budget they've done it on, but also doing it for an owner like Marinakis, who spends the entire time in his personal throne, beating up his own TV when his team don't win. Tough man to work for. So what an achievement it would be to get them there. And the home form is trailed off a bit across the season. It's been good. They're very tough to beat at the City Ground, but a couple of home games, Everton and Brentford, they're just... People have worked out Forest, and that is going to be an issue for them next season. Obviously, extreme low block, as few passes as possible from winning the ball to scoring the goal. The flick-ons from Wood to 𝐿anga and Hudson-Odoi, if you cut them out, you stop Nottingham Forest, and teams have done it better. They didn't do it well for 30 weeks this season. They have done it well for the following 8. It's why they're not in the FA Cup final. It's why they've only won 1 in the last 5. And even West Ham, to a degree, worked it out last week. And if it wasn't for the goalkeeper gifting them the first goal, I think that might have been a different sort of day last week against a pretty poor West Ham. So there's concerns about Forest, but when the big games have come around across the season, thinking about Man City at home, they have delivered. And I think defensively, they still remain pretty strong. Despite lots of goals conceded in recent weeks, I think Milenkovic and Murillo and Olareina and the goalkeeper Matt Sells, they're more than capable of putting in one final big performance and keep a clean sheet in a game like this. I think defensively, they've got good cover in front of them that we've seen all season. And I still think Wood is scoring and 𝐿anga is dangerous and Hudson-Odoi is a threat, all of that. So I think I would probably make Forest ever so slight favourites. And in terms of Chelsea, like, the away form across the season's not been too bad. But as you mentioned, it's recent times where it's fallen off a cliff. Across the campaign, 7 away wins actually quite good. But in the last few games, awful against Newcastle. It weren't really at the races in that one at all. And I think you're going to see a quite similar performance here from Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson got sent off in that game, remains suspended for this. It's a huge problem because without him, there is no focal point striker. And 𝐿𝐿 remains out. But really, it's because he's never been a fit for Chelsea and he's desperate to leave. So there's been no cover in that position. So look, offensively, I think there are concerns for Chelsea. And maybe Pedro Neto and maybe Cole Palmer putting all-timer performances. They're going to have to in a game like this. Bit of a lack of pace beyond those two in behind. Bit of a lack of creativity in midfield. I think that the 𝐿𝐵𝐴, Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez balance from right back to midfield has given them a slight advantage in games. It might give it to them here. But I think the first goal is going to be so crucial. And I just can't see Chelsea getting it. I think in recent times, it hasn't quite worked for Forest. Across the season, it has. I think Forest get the first goal and Forest go on to win. So take Forest to win as your top tip, but over double your money. That's wild, considering how good they have been across the season. I think a very low-scoring game. Forest by exactly 1 is 5. I think it's going to finish 1-0, which on its own comes in at 12. But Forest win by exactly 1. That covers 2-1. That covers, it's never going to be 3-2, but it covers a few score lines. So it's quite nice. Forest and under 2.5 goals is 7.5. Like, that's come in a few times for us this season. A similar bet came off in the Man City game and the Man United game, I think. So why not again? They've beaten a lot of the big teams at home by narrow score lines. The only other thing I'll say is don't discount the draw. But I do think a very tight Forest win, as has happened against a lot of the big 6 this season.
Interesting. We saw Nottingham Forest dropping points against Leicester or Palace recently. So now they must win if they want to qualify for the Champions League. Well, and then we have 3 games with nothing on stake. First one, Southampton against Arsenal. Southampton bottom of the table, as we all know, and Arsenal, very important win, Tom, crucial win last weekend against Newcastle. Now it's time to look also at the market to see where they can improve. I guess they can really improve in the number 9, as you've been saying the whole season.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Arsenal conversation is, I can't do it again. They have to buy a striker in the summer. They brought in someone to buy a striker. Arteta wanted a striker last summer and didn't get it. And the only issue for this game for Arsenal, who's going to play? Like, everyone's out now. They've been on bare bones for a lot of the season. The squad is very thin, and now everyone seems to be out. Saliba is out. Timber is out. Gabriel is out. Jesus is out. Tomiyasu is out. I mean, great to see Kai Havertz come back last week. It's a great game to have your defence out because it doesn't really matter. Like, they can line up with 𝐿𝐵𝐿 and Ben White and 1 or 2 others in a game like this, and 𝐿𝐿𝐴, and they'll be fine. They've still got a strong midfield. They've still got a strong attack. I'd be keen to see Kai Havertz get a run out from the start because it's basically the first pre-season friendly against a Southampton side who put up a decent fist, I thought, at times against Everton last week. Did okay in that draw against Man City, which no one saw coming. Got a good result at West Ham a few weeks ago, that late leveller. But look, worst team in the country by a long way, and they're going to end the season on a near record low points tally. Just managed to escape it with those draws against West Ham and Man City, but they deserved to be one of the worst teams in Premier League history because they have been. Squad's not been good enough. 3rd manager of the season, can't win a home game, ain't going to win this. Look, if you're going to bet on this one, you can only really do a big Arsenal win. I mentioned the defence are out, but of course the offence are all there. So the Arsenal win at 1.34. It's the safest bet of the weekend. I think they'll score a few goals as well. I know they haven't been scoring that many recently, but I think Arsenal will want to end the season with a flurry. So I expect at least 2, maybe 3. First money to be made is a win and over 3.5 goals in the game. That brings you to 2.5. 4-0 on its own is 15. Really like that if you're taking a punt on something. And they ain't going to concede in this game to this terrible Southampton. Arsenal win to 0, 2.25. All you can do is handicap it and hope Arsenal fancy it.
Yeah, 3-0, for instance, for Arsenal, and Arsenal to win easily, I guess, this game. Next one is Tottenham Brighton. I'm sure there is going to be a great atmosphere from Tottenham in Tottenham Hotspur ground. Tom, is the 2nd year when I win trophies, and Ante Postecoglou was absolutely right. Cheers to Tottenham. They are going to play the Champions League next season. I was reading some stats. The worst ever European winner in terms of the standings in your league. Also, they won the trophy without shooting on target in 90 minutes, which is a great success. Well, the season in the Premier League, they must forget, Tom, but of course, you bring home a trophy, and it's a great success.
The league doesn't matter. None of this matters. And Postecoglou said post-game, and we knew anyway, he didn't care about the league. He was dropping players for league games. He was resting players for league games. There was a game a few weeks ago. He took off Romero and Van de Ven at half-time. He was just trying to get them fit for Europe. And he won it. So he was right. And there's no Tottenham fan. Ask a Tottenham fan where they came in the league last year. They don't know. Ask them where they came 2 years ago. They ain't got a clue. Where'd your team finish last year? Most people will say, I don't know, unless they won it, of course. They'll be like, I don't know, 6th or was it 7th? I forget. What year did you win that trophy? 2025, Bilbao. That's what they'll say. So none of it matters. The reception's going to be interesting. They've got the parade Friday as we record this, so we'll see what the reception is like, because the parade's going to be joyous. But of course, in the league, I had tickets for a game. A friend of mine said, "Can you just find someone to get the tickets for me?" And I couldn't give them away because nobody wanted to go to the home game against Crystal Palace because they're sort of unwatchable in the league. And I think that you're going to get a very Tottenham in the league sort of performance. No Maddison, there's no 𝗀𝗏𝗀, there's no creativity. They're going to play almost the same as they did against Man U in the Europa League final. It's going to be unwatchable at points. But again, it doesn't really matter because they're going to finish 17th, maybe 16th. Who cares? They're not going to remember that. They're in the Champions League next year. There'll be a big reinvestment. I think Postecoglou going is still going to happen. I don't know whether that's the right thing to do because the mitigating circumstances of this season have been clear. He's had no players for long spells, lots of key players injured. He didn't have a replacement for Mickey van der Ven, who's the most important player in his team, which he showed again in midweek. 𝐿𝐿𝐴 and Maddison have been continually injured. We've barely seen Son. He's had real clear mitigations. The trouble is, like, they won this final in the least Ange ball way possible. And all anyone has said to him this season is, don't try and play your philosophy when you've got no players. And he said, that's what I do, mate. Well, when he finally didn't do what he does, mate, he won a trophy, mate. So, I don't know. It's a funny old story. We'll see what he does. But I think if he does leave 𝗵𝗲𝗀, he goes off the back of an incredible achievement, and he'll get a great job off the back of it as well. I think he will. And he's left a really good young squad behind as well. If fit, if they had 𝐿𝐴, Maddison, 𝗵𝗲𝗀 all available in this game to go with the likes of Dominic Solanke and Bissouma and Sarr and one or two others, it's not a title-winning squad. I'm not saying they're going to challenge Liverpool. It's a good squad, though. They could be up there with someone like Villa with players like that. Another year on them. I think there's great potential there. In terms of Brighton, what a win last week against Liverpool. I didn't see it coming. I think maybe the fact that Liverpool are on the beach helped them out. But another performance where players step up for Brighton. Like 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗄 stepped up. Ayari's been fantastic for like 5 or 6 weeks for Brighton. Start of the season, no one knew he was. I think made his debut in a game I was doing against Arsenal in September or something like that. Maybe it was the Declan Rice sending off game. And it was like, oh, okay, they've got to bring on this Ayari. Who's he? And gradually becomes one of the most solid performers in the league. We've seen him do it with Gruder and Adingra and Estupiñán in the past. They keep on doing it. Incredible way of getting players to the club. They are short of 1 or 2 going into a game like this. I think 𝐵𝗲𝗿𝗄 comes back in for what might be his final game for the club. He is fattened up and ready to be sold. So we'll see if they can get the 60 million they want for someone like 𝗵𝗲𝗄. They'll reinvest in 7 players you never heard of and sell them for £40 million in 2 years. And they're on a great run of wins as well. 3 wins in their last 4, scoring lots of goals as well. And I think that pattern will continue. So take the Brighton win at 1.73. Can't see Tottenham winning this game. I think both teams to score. It's often one of the safest bets when it comes to Brighton at Hove Albion. Brighton win both teams to score is 2.5. Brighton over 3.5 goals in the game is 2.88. And a couple of nice scorelines here. 2-0 is 12. 2-1 is 8.5. I think Brighton score at least 2 goals in this match.
Well, the odds are very low for Brighton indeed. 𝐿𝐴, Spurs will still be hangover, but I can take Brighton at these odds. 1.7 is really, really low indeed. Well, and the last game of the season, Tom. Last time we are going to talk about a football game between you and me in the Premier League this season, at least, is Wolves-Brentford. Not really exciting game, we must say, but there you go.
Well, I'll try. Do you want me to try? I'll try.
Try. Brentford lost to Fulham 3-2. So with all the results in the European competitions in the FA Cup, no options for them to go to Europe. Wolves lost to Brighton. Tom, all yours. Is this an exciting game? Is this a game you want to watch? Bet on?
Yes, it's a game. It's a game
DVD?
I want to watch. It's a game I want to bet on. It's a game that I would go to, and it's a game we can make some money on. I think because you're going to get goals here. You're going to get goals in this game. Last 2 games for these two: Palace 4, Wolves 2, Brentford 2, Fulham 3. I think this game's going to follow that pattern. Wolves have had an almighty let-off this season. They could have gone down. They could have been dragged into a relegation battle. Pereira's come in and sort of quelled a crazy group and got some really good results in a really lovely run of fixtures to get them safe in the Premier League this season. The sale of 𝐿𝐴 𝐶unha is going to hurt this summer. Again, they're not going to be able to invest this summer. So I think it'll be another year of being a struggling team next year. Wolves, I think Vitor Pereira probably going to be sacked by January. But look, they've enjoyed the pints and points thing he's been doing recently, and good luck to him. They had a really awful start to the campaign, so I'm glad he was able to turn it around. But now it's 3 defeats in a row, conceding goals to everybody. I think they're going to struggle in this game to keep a clean sheet, I tell you that. In terms of Brentford, what a blow for them to lose against Fulham last week. It was nearly 5 straight victories, scoring plenty of goals as well. There is still some fandangled scenario where 8 could be Europe, but I don't think it is going to happen. We will see. But all in all, I think it'll be a disappointment for Brentford this campaign, considering how good it was at the start of the season at home. And then to not win away games in that run. If they could have matched the away form with the home in the first half of the season, the form in the second half away with some stumbled victories at home could have got them top 7, could have got them top 6. In the end, they are just going to fall short. It happens in the Premier League when you don't have the overall quality to break into that top group, which is very hard to do. It's taken a lot of money for Villa and for Newcastle to do that, plus an almighty fall away from Tottenham and Manchester United. But look, they do have 𝐬𝐿 and Bryan Mbeumo, 2 of the top scorers in the country. Bryan Mbeumo with 19. He's an exceptional player. Wonder if they'll keep hold of him this summer. But I think that pairing are very likely to do some damage against a pretty poor Wolves defence, who've conceded a lot of goals this season. 68 in 37 is a really poor record. So take here the Brentford win. I would take the Fulham loss last week as an anomaly and follow the form before that. 2.55, lovely odds. I look at Bryan Mbeumo. I do it every week because it keeps bringing me money. Anytime goal scorer is 2.75. Opening goal is 7.5, which is real high, which I love. Away from a result, both teams to score and over 2.5 goals in the match is 7.5. Again, this game screams goals, so I really, really like that. But Brentford win, both teams score 3.75.
All right, Tom. Well, the odds to qualify for the top 5, by the way, in the Premier League, Man City 1.03, so it's almost for granted. Newcastle 1.16, Chelsea 1.61, Aston Villa, here is good money to be made, 2.10, and Nottingham Forest 4.5. Who is not qualifying or qualifying for the Champions League, Tom?
Well, look, Man City are going to win at Fulham. It's a real tough game, but I think they'll win that, so they will qualify. I've taken Newcastle to win as well, so I think they're going to qualify. And then 5th is going to be wide open. I think Villa are going to win their game, and so it will fall to them if the Chelsea-Forest game ends in a draw. But I think Forest are going to beat Chelsea. That would mean that Forest would climb to 68 points. That will put them above Chelsea. Chelsea drop down. And if Villa have won, they go above them as well. So I would probably, at this moment, pick the current top 4 and put Villa in there as well, with Chelsea and Forest qualifying for the other 2 European places, with Chelsea finishing 7th. That's how I've got it.
Well, perhaps they play again the conference. They have the conference final next Wednesday with Betis, and perhaps they have another chance next season to play conference. Well, guys, thank you. It's been a great season, as 𝐿𝐿 is telling you, Tom. Just let me remind you guys that you can still participate in our tipster competitions and win some cash prizes. You see, up to 1,000 euros. There you go. Our menu. We have a Premier League competition. We will have another one next season. So just stay tuned and participate in the 2025 and 26 season, and also on Rivals. Tom, let's go with your last safe bet.
Safe bet this weekend is Arsenal to win at Southampton. Saints are atrocious and the Gunners will thrash them. 1.25.
Last ACCA.
Treble this week, which is really, really good, actually. Nottingham Forest to beat Chelsea. I know it's in the mixer, but I do quite fancy them to win it. Villa are going to be victorious in their game against Man United. Man United are awful. And if you throw West Ham in, which is generally insane, but if you throw them in, this treble comes in at 12.6. That is incredibly high for really likely winners. So worth a punt on the final day.
Thank you, Tom. See you very soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.